got a big guest on for you today, but first our sponsor, Infinite Aesthetics. Use the code EMPIRE to support the pod and to support the brand and keep the pod rolling. Obviously today, big podcast guest. Obviously I've only had Kiwis on, New Zealanders. I'm pushing the New Zealand bodybuilding scene, but it's time to get the biggest Australian coach, bikini coach and wellness coach on the pod. Hey Troy, how are you today?
I'm really good. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Thank you so much for the time. If anyone doesn't know Troy Thornton, you need to get out from the rock you're under. He's the fucking best Australian bikini coach, probably getting worldwide now. He's just like got the best reputation, the best clients, and his athletes push all of us to the limit. So if you don't know him, you'll know him now anyway after last weekend's comp. Let's dive into it. I've got so many questions for you, Troy. What have you been up to lately? I know you're in Dubai at the moment. Do you have like a busy time of the year, or is that just all year round for you?
Yeah, it's probably all year round. I mean, with the New Zealand comps, I've had so I had a wellness winner win the overall just recently, and then obviously the bikini overall with Barbara, which is great. Another New Zealand comp coming up this weekend, and season B for IFBB Australia is coming up as well. So it's comp season, which is awesome. But I've even had some ladies compete internationally, Canada, North America. So the North Americans were on. I just had a client compete in the North Americans, place second. So they have a pro card for every class. I just missed out on a pro card with that competitor. I was like, but that was a fair decision. So yeah, always got competitors competing worldwide.
Yeah, and in both, and like all federations, hey, like just to touch on that, because we talk a lot about IFBB, but you've got WBFF, IFBB, ICN, all of them. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. But I definitely, I do. Originally, I was more so IFBB focused, but then I found also a love for WBFF, and it's a completely different look. The criteria is, very unique, and there's a lot of intricate details. And once you understand the criteria, you can prep successfully for any federation. It's just that I think a lot of people will misinterpret the criteria and then be frustrated with the results that they get if they're a coach.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you've got to be in the right place and have both. And if you don't do both, you'll have to let them go. So it's a really good thing that you're doing all around. It's really cool. How long have you been coaching for? Like, tell us a little bit of your backstory. When did Team Destroy begin, and how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I've been coaching, on and off for a while. The last, I would say, maybe 5 years has been full time, but I suppose I started coaching even maybe on a part-time basis back in, I would say 2011. But that wasn't necessarily focused on ladies. It was more like, yep, I'm going to prep anyone. And I had my first contest prep client in 2011. And that was a really good experience. It was a dude that competed in, I believe it back then, it wasn't ICN, it was IMBA. That was before the split. So that now everyone's probably like, oh, there's ICN and IMBA, but IMBA used to be collectively together ICN. So that was my first experience. And I believe, yeah, he was a junior, placed second in his first contest, which was cool. And that was my first ever experience to competing. I prepped myself. Well, I didn't prep myself, but I competed myself in 2010. So that was my first start to, the whole idea of competing, the competing world. And I thought, this is really cool, and then I thought maybe I'll just start getting some experience with clients. And that's when I did that in 2011.
Yeah, nice. It's a long time ago now. So a lot has probably changed over that time. Is there anything like that stands out that's changed in the bodybuilding world since then, or like maybe physique wise, or even just through the federations, they changed much?
Yeah, well, it took me a while to get into the IFBB. Originally, I was just focusing on natural federations. So because I was a natural competitor and I never competed in an untested federation. So when I was competing natural, I was just like, yeah, cool. This is exactly what I want to focus on, because I had no experience in the PED side of things. So that was the main focus. And I was doing that part-time just for fun, I suppose, where I transitioned to doing it full-time. That was when I was also working with IFBB competitors. But that doesn't mean that if you compete in the IFBB, it's untested, that you're not natural, because a lot of the ladies that I work with are natural that do really well. But the difference in, I suppose, what have I seen? Maybe if we're talking bikini specifically, the conditioning requirements is definitely different. I think the density that they have is most certainly different. And as these ladies get bigger, they're going to pop a lot more, which is going to give an illusion that there's so much more like quality muscle. So I definitely think that bikini in itself has grown. Like they've got a lot more density, a lot more condition, better posing, everything's advanced. And every year I feel like the top 10 at the Olympia just gets a lot better and better. And even this year, if we compare this year's Olympia that's coming up to compare to last year, there'll be crazy differences, and we probably might even see a new Olympia champion.
Reckon there's been a couple of new ones each last couple of years. No one's got the double for a while, but yeah, it'll be interesting. And like you said, if you go back and look at the Olympians, even just from this year to last year, the year before, it changes all the time. But it's cool to see, and it's cool that it's growing. And do you like the direction bikini's going in? Is that kind of like, are you enjoying seeing this process, like more muscle development, more conditioning?
It's interesting because I had that question. I think, like, for example, this is really impressive, right? I definitely think that if they're going to be rewarding someone that's really dense and full and that's got complete development, it's likely that they could reward someone like her. But if you look at her front pose, personally, I think that the amount of size that she has, it's almost trending outside of bikini, because if they're going to reward that look, where is it going to end? It's almost, her structure is obviously very insane, that the shoulder to waist ratio, but if you look at it and go, how attainable is that? You know, does that actually look like a bikini physique? I would argue that it doesn't. When she opens up, hits a front pose, it's very figure-esque. So how bikini is now, or where it's trending, if for example, this is the standard, that is very much like how Erin Stern was. Issa Pacini right now is bigger, harder than Erin Stern back in the day when Erin Stern won the figure Olympia. So for me, do I think it's a great direction for bikini? No, I think that they need to refine things, my personal opinion, and bring it down to make sure that it's attainable.
Yeah, like Maureen. Do you think Maureen's a bit like that? She built that from the ground up. She looks more attainable. Do you think she was quite a good winner for last year's Olympia?
I think, yeah, there was an argument, because I attended last year's Olympia, and there was an argument that could be made for her, and I didn't have a problem with her winning because she just had a really good complete package. Do I think that Maureen could have been better? Yes, but Jen Dory wasn't 100%. She was a bit flat. So when you're a bit flat, you don't have that normal bubbly fullness. Like Maureen was very full. So there was a trade-off. You went for Maureen, who was slightly softer, but super full and round, whereas Jen Dory was a little bit flat, but more conditioned. So they went for fuller and rounder, which I like the idea of doing that, because she had this femininity about her that wasn't, let's say, stringy. And I think if bikini competitors come in it's not coming in too lean, it's coming in under carbed and depleted. So Jen wasn't, in my opinion, too lean. I just think that she wasn't carved up enough and she wasn't full enough. So you can have a depleted state and wake up. Let's say if you're in a peak week and you haven't had any carbs and you wake up first thing in the morning, you're super flat. That doesn't mean that you're too lean or anything. It's just that you probably haven't had your carb up time yet. So I think Jen in that case probably was a bit depleted, undercarbed. And that's what gave her that somewhat depleted look, where she looked a bit stringier than normal.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. Laura Lee as well looked like super, well, she just looked weird for her, but it was just interesting to see. It was a very interesting Olympia, and I reckon this year is going to be even better. It's going to be good to watch. Just to dive back into you for a second and like your journey, how did you get into fitness, like the gym with yourself? Like, how did you get into training, and what division did you compete in when you competed?
Yeah, so I started training in the backyard, like just my dad was like, hey, do some weights. I'm like, cool. So I was like 14, 15 years old, joined a gym at 17. And I suppose had the goal of just wanting to attain a physique, like just some muscle, have some abs, be in good condition. And then as I was training, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to push myself. There was an older dude in the gym who was like, oh, you've got a really good physique. Have you thought about competing? And I was like, what's that? Like, what does that mean? And then he educated me. I was like, I'll do some research, and I was asking him questions. So it was that older dude who was a competitor back in the day. He had a really good physique. That sort of encouraged and put that thought in my head, where I thought, all right, I'll research it. And then I liked the idea of it, and I started taking my training seriously. So that's where it all stemmed from, was that old dude having a conversation. So it's like, you'd be surprised what, some positive words can do in the gym, where, there might be someone that's been training for 12 months. There's a girl that comes in the gym, or there's a dude that comes in the gym. They receive a bit of encouragement. That could be the catalyst for them thinking, wow, someone thinks that I can be great. Maybe I can be, and they'll research it and they'll get into the sport. So that's why it's really important to be, transparent with your thoughts if they're positive, and you might encourage the next generation. That could be that new freak bikini competitor that comes out of nowhere because someone said, hey, you could be great. So I like that, the idea of that. And he was really cool with me. So I started there, and it was from that conversation where I was like, all right, I need to go to a contest. And then I went to a contest and I saw the competitors on stage, and I wasn't that impressed. I was like, oh, this is what they look like in terms of condition. So I was thinking, all right, if I'm going to compete, I want to get in proper condition. From what I've researched, like, these guys weren't in shape. And the guy that won the contest had a good amount of muscle, but I thought, how could you go on stage leaving something in the tank and not be in shape? And that just created this desire in me where I was like, I want to set the standard. I'm going to be the standard. And I was like, I don't know who I'm going to get as a coach though. So it's like, let's find out. who can be the coach for me to get into the condition that I need to, because I wasn't impressed with what I researched in Australia at that time. Obviously, there's no Instagram, all that stuff. So I went on the bodybuilding forums and I was researching a lot of competitors in the States that were getting a really good condition. And at that time, Lane Norton was one of the dudes who was, a contest prep coach that was getting guys in condition, or even females, very consistently. So when I say in condition for bodybuilding, it was, striated glutes. Like, to me, that was the standard. And I didn't really see anyone back then in Australia as natural competitors that could do that, and coaches that could also push a client to achieve that result. Like, there wasn't consistency. From what I researched, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a risk. I didn't have a lot of money, and I was kind of broke back then. I was like, I'm going to save up money, and I'm going to go all in on Lane. That's what I'm going to do. So I saved up money, and I was like, yeah. He was, I suppose he was like expensive, but not like, I mean, he deserved what he was charging at the time for sure. And I could see that the result that he was able to achieve, like, I need to get this guy. There's no one else that I want. So I hired Lane for like a quick off season. And then we went into a contest prep. And then I entered, it was like an A and B, the natural bodybuilding contest, Australian natural bodybuilding. And then I won like a junior state title, for example. So that was kind of cool. And then achieved the level of condition that I wanted to achieve. Didn't cheat on my diet, did everything that he said. And I was like, whatever you say, I'll do. Like, it doesn't matter. And I probably might have done a few extras. I might have posed a bit longer. I might have done a few extra cheeky cardio sessions. But that was my mindset at the time. I was like, I need to set the standard. So that was the, I suppose, the start of the bodybuilding venture, where I was like, I really started enjoying, bodybuilding, and I participated in it as well.
Yeah, nice. That's such a cool story. I like that, because I bet not a lot of people know more about you, and I like that story. So I think it's cool to find out how you got to where you are. A lot of people want to be where you are, especially coaches and people in fitness. So it's always good to know, And then, did you only compete the once?
Yeah, so that season, just competed that season, and then the intention was like, all right, I need to, have an off season, and I did. So I was a junior at the time, so it would have been 23 or just turning 23.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I'm gonna have an off season. Had an off season, a few life events happened. I thought, competing isn't for me right now. And then, I sort of, let's say, maintained my physique, or just being a regular gym goer. And I thought, I might look at the opportunity to compete in the future, which I didn't get rid of. But then, and there was no real category for me at the time. So I never really committed to the idea, because I didn't want to do IFBB bodybuilding at all. I was like, I started enhancing as well at 25 years old. So it was like, natural bodybuilding's out the window. So I was like, all right, what can I do in the IFBB? Do I want to be a bodybuilder? Do I want to be that big? Or do I want to do men's physique? And the answer was no. So I was like, there's no real category for me. And then by the time classic physique came around, I was doing well with business, and I was like, do I really want to dedicate myself to competing? Not really. So my goals have changed. So I didn't have that desire to want to step on stage, and I certainly don't now.
Yeah, fair enough. You're done with it. It's happened. Now you've got all your athletes up there anyway, so you still get the vibe and the feel of going and supporting and being there, part of the team. If you were gonna have a coach now, who would you pick?
I'd go for the best. I would go straight to Hani Rambod. And that doesn't mean that he would accept. I don't know what his process is, but it's like, this is one thing I don't understand. When you're researching a coach, whether you're a male or a female, if you want the best result, why do you hire these coaches that cannot produce? And that means, are they winning? Are they winning, state shows or regional shows, overalls, pro cards? If they're not capable of doing that, and you want to be at that level, you're making a wrong decision. If you don't have the funds, do what I did. I didn't have a lot of income coming. I saved, and I thought, I need someone that's going to get me there. That's got proven results. And Lane had so much consistency at the time with getting into the condition. And and not just that, it's interesting because people look at things from the perspective of result only. But if you want to be a coach as well, you want to learn from the best that have a proven track record. So Lane not only got me into the condition that I needed to, he opened up my eyes and taught me so many things about nutrition that I was then able to replicate in my clients, and I have a business on today. So if anything, a lot of what I know was from that and taking that risk. So people think of it as, is Troy affordable, or is Hani Rambod affordable? But it's not just about the result now. Like, what are you going to learn from this coach that you can use in the future? And you're going to save a lot of time and money from going, getting straight to the best result possible. And also you can use it on your clients. So it's an investment, not only in the contest prep, but if you're a coach, it's actually an investment as you in your coaching ability moving forward too. And you can can work with your clients with that. So I think people fail to realize that. So hire a coach that's going to get you the result. Like, it's a no-brainer. I don't understand. Handy Runbot for sure. If he's not available, I probably wouldn't. Yeah, no, let's be real. I would find a way where he would do it. So yeah.
Make it happen. Fuck
Yeah.
it.
I would make it happen. I would just keep bugging him until he did it. If that was my goal, if I was only committed to competing and I wanted to be, you know, the best, like whatever, classic physique, men's physique, whatever, I was like, all right, I need to get Hanny. There's no ifs or buts because he's got the proven track record.
Yeah, you just make it happen. It just has to be done. And I like that about you. You're so like, you make shit happen and it happens. I love it. We can all take a little bit of that. A little bit of a controversial question, but have to ask because it's current. Thoughts on the current WBFF situation that's going on?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think that a lot of people are jumping on the WBFF shitting them at the moment, right? And it's like, the reality is that all federations have their issues, and you know, whether it's ICN, whether it's IFBB, there's been a lot of things that have come up, whether it's judging, whether it's, you know, the hierarchy, whether it's politics and interesting decisions. And I think that all federations have their issues. And with WBFF at the moment, I think it's all about them taking the feedback on and making change. And I think it's about the athletes. So if they make the changes that have been brought up, that you know, concerns from the athletes, then that's what they need to do moving forward. Otherwise, I think WBFF USA is going to have a very hard time moving forward, because people probably not going to want to do it. But this is the thing, there's always that next generation of athletes that are going to be inspired that don't know all this bullshit, right? So it's just a hot topic at the moment, but I do think they've got a lot of things that they can address. And I've seen a lot of the stuff. I'm not sure what you're seeing, but you know, transparent judging scorecards, I think, is a no-brainer. Not having a conflict of interest on the judging panel, I think, is important in any federation. You know, if you know someone that's competing, you should step off the panel. You know, I just think that they need to make things very clear and professional, where everyone knows what's going on. So yeah, depending on what you're referring to, because there's so many things that I probably have seen or things that I haven't seen. But yeah, I think if any federation has issues, whether it's with coaches or with athletes, they're raising concern, this federation or whatever federation needs to listen to those concerns and take it seriously and address them, because it's not just about the athlete experience and the coach experience, it's about also growing the federation. So if their goal is to provide value and provide joy and give everyone the right experience and to grow the federation, they're going to take feedback on board, whether it's positive or negative, and they're going to want to do the best thing for their federation, regardless of how the coaches and athletes feel.
Yeah, this is a chance for them to like change what they've been doing. And I completely agree. Like, how have they not had scorecards? Which just blows my mind. So yeah, even all of that shit will just get fixed. And this is just the time that it's happening. So, I mean, you know, there's other things too, but we kind of need more proof, evidence, all that shit before you make comments on it, because you just don't know what's true online as well. But yeah, interesting. And I know it's not like I know USA WBFF is different than Australia WBFF. They're all kind of run by slightly different people, even though the top dogs are still the top dogs. So it's not really as much an Australia problem as it is a USA, I don't think, as far as I can see anyway. You've had no issues with WBFF Australia? Like, they've always been good to you guys, eh?
Yeah, I've had like the best experience. So like, coming from the IFBB Australia background and then going to WBFF, they've treated me like just with respect, and everything's very consistent and normal. So there's not like, oh, I don't attend a show and I'm like, oh, that's a terrible decision, or that was a very odd judging call. And I talked to the judges about feedback, and it's reasonable. It's not consistent. They're very consistent with their judging. And that doesn't mean that I'm always right. I can look at things objectively and go, yeah, I can see an argument there. There's been times where I've had ladies place second and then not won a show. And I looked at it and I'm like, could have gone either way. And I have people that will inbox me saying, oh, your client should have won. Da, da, da. I'm like, yeah, not really. I actually believe that she was second, and that's fine. So I've never had a big issue with the judging panel or what they do in terms of the stage time and experience. Like, the stage time and experience for the competitors with WBFF Australia is second to none. So they give them the most stage time. And I think that's really important. So I think that they do their best job to give the athletes the best experience possible, whether it's on stage or off stage. So I'm a big fan of WBFF Australia.
Yeah, they seem to look after you guys pretty well, and they do. Yeah, the stage time is really fun. It's a fun show to watch. Like, it's a fucking spectacle, like the whole thing. It's really, really fun. So that's good. It's good to know your thoughts, because you're right in there. So it's good to get your opinion. Okay, you can be considered like a little bit of a controversial coach. It depends who you speak to. It depends how long they followed you or whatever. But I listened to like some of your old pods. I like dove deep into your old pods, and I was like, holy fuck, like you go in, man, like you go hard on people, and like the opinions you give are really, really blunt, and people won't, like, some people will get rubbed up the wrong way or whatever. But I know you've changed a little bit over the years as well, and how you verbalize the way you think and things like that. Do you reckon, like, how do you think you've changed? Do you think you've changed at all or grown, or like whatever's happened over the years? Or do you just feel like you maybe have just spoken your mind a little bit more in the past and now you just keep that on the low a little bit more? Like, what do you think? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, so I suppose it's all about, communication and the delivery of a message, right? So back in the day, I suppose I was speaking from a point of, I've definitely had a lot of personal growth over the years. And so I attest that to seeing a psychologist. So I've been seeing a clinical psychologist for 3 years. So the way that I view the world and my ideology has changed, and my values and the way that I communicate has changed. So I have probably very much similar opinions, but the way that I communicate those opinions is more calm and more precise. So would I have the same passion with certain topics as I did previously? Yes. So if you ask me a question that's really controversial, that's really specific, I'll give you the same answer. It's just communicated in a different way. Or maybe the answer might have changed based on, whatever's happened, and I might have changed my opinion, but I'll say, all right, this is where I used to think, this is what I think now based on X, Y, Z. But yeah, I think it more comes down to personal growth. And at the time as well, where I did start the podcast, I thought, how can I get as much attention as possible? So there was an element of me trying to get the most attention possible by being different, and also strategically being confrontational. And I thought, so there was authenticity there, where I was like, I am actually saying what I believe. And two, I thought I can be really animated and try to make it funny as well, which applied to a certain type of demographic, but not to others. So it's like, oh, I like what he's saying, but I don't like how he's saying it. So it's cool. That helps. That certainly helped, create a lot of shares, and a lot of people spoke about it, whether that was positive or negative. So that was the intention. So it was a bit of both. So yes, I did that on purpose. Yes, I realized it was outrageous, but I also thought that it was also authentic, because this is the way that I deliver the message.
Yeah, and I got your message. Like, I'm a really blunt person too, and I can say things that are just appear rude to people and whatever. But so I listen to it, I'm like, fuck, this is what I think. Like, this is sometimes the actual thoughts I have, which are brutal to some people, but it is just what we think, and you just say what you think. And now obviously you've just like toned that down slightly, maybe just because I've listened to your pods for like 3 or 4 years or something. But I do like it. I think the growth is cool, and it's cool to be able to see it, like, and go along with you on that journey. I think it's really cool, and it's just nice to know that you're like, well, it's good that you're transparent about your mental health. I think that's really important, especially for a man. They need to talk about it a little bit more, so that's good. I like it. But how do you deal with people when they take you the wrong way? Because surely that happens every now and again, especially on social media. Everyone gets a little bit rubbed up the wrong way. Like, how do you respond to that? Like, if you're just being honest and someone's like, no, defensive, how do you deal with them?
I suppose it depends on the context of the situation, but if someone, like, it depends on how they feel about it. So I don't know, maybe give an example and I can answer it a bit better.
So maybe like if because you're quite ruthless with how you used to say things, maybe like something like, oh, she was too fat to get on the stage, she shouldn't have been up there. And then someone's like, well, that's not very nice. Like, how would you respond to that? It's just your thoughts, you're just having a thought about something. Someone doesn't like it, they're all politically correct, and then they want to go on a Karen about it. Like, how would you respond to that kind of thing?
Yeah, so with that comment there, if I said someone was too fat for stage, and someone actually said, Troy, that's not very nice, I'd be like, you're right, that is not nice. Like, straight up, that isn't the way to talk, but that's the reality. So it's like, if we're being on stage you're going on bodybuilding stage to be judged.
Yeah.
So one of the judging requirements is body fat and displaying a level of condition. So if I'm saying that you're out of shape, is saying you're out of shape worse than saying you're too fat? It's the same thing. Yeah. So instead of focusing on the reality, you're focusing on how and what I'm saying and the words. And I understand that words have meaning and it has impact, and it could be said in a nicer way. But the reality is that you're out of shape, or the reality is that you're fat, right? Mm-hmm. So it's the same message, just that can it be delivered a bit easier? Yeah, sure. Yeah. So I think that if people actually DM me, which they have in the past, and they say, hey, listen, I don't agree with what you've said or how you say it, I have a discussion with them. You send me a message, it's fine. I'm not here for everyone. And if someone disagrees with me, doesn't like me, I still have people had a client message me the other day actually, and they're like, oh, you know, I had to defend you. You know, a few people have been talking bad about you. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, it actually doesn't affect me. It's a reflection of their own insecurity and how they feel about themselves. It's like, whether it's a coach, it's like, oh, Troy, I could do this better than Troy, or whatever it might be. Cool. Like, where are your results? You know, where are your pro cards? You haven't got shit. So it's like, I noticed that it's the coaches who haven't done diddly shit that will often criticize and will point the finger. Whereas coaches that are well established actually, you know, will send a message to me and go, you know, good job here, or whatever it might be. And they're not so insecure, you know, or they might gain inspiration out of that. So it's really how people talk about others is a reflection of their mental health, especially when you, like, at the end of the day, these people that say these negative things, do they really know me? Probably not. So why would I take offense to it? It's not a problem. But at the same time, just as ladies will jump on stage to be judged, if I'm sharing my opinion, it's fair game. It can be criticized as well. So that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of things. People get very sensitive, but they're up on stage to be judged. Like, you are going to have people talk about your physique in different ways. So it's just part of it. It's just what it is, you know. How's your podcast going? Like, you've been doing that a while, like I just spoke about. Do you have like different guests that come on at times, or is it just kind of like you just do it as it fits your life?
Yeah, right now I do it as it fit my life. I mean, in the past I would have guests come on, etc. I think when I was doing it, a lot of the people would be like, I want you to do a personal podcast. I think there's interest in that more than anything. Because, you know, as you know, sometimes you have a guest on, it's, if they don't know how to communicate well, it's challenging to get information out of them. It's like, oh, what do I do next? This is a hard conversation. And then it's kind of boring. And then it's like, you need to, then I'll edit the podcast and I'll cut things so it doesn't honestly make them sound stupid. Like, just because they're just like, and it's not that interesting. It's like, I've literally got to edit the podcast because people aren't going to listen to this shit. So, and I try to, you know, if I have guests on in the past, I've edited the shit out of podcasts to make sure that they sound the best. They're in the best possible light and they don't sound boring, because a lot of the time they do. And that's because they probably haven't worked in the communication. They might've been nervous or whatever the reason is, and that's fine. But it's hard to keep it interesting when they're shy or they don't have the confidence.
Yeah, it takes a lot of energy, eh? It's quite a bit of work doing a podcast. I don't think people realize how much energy it takes, especially just when you've got so much other shit going on, you know. I like your wrap-ups that you do, though. You do wrap-ups of some of the shows that you go to. Do you try to do that for every show you visit, or you just do it for the big ones?
Yeah, I'll do it. So I'll do it for every show that's coming up for IFBB Australia. So I'm not going to go to for example, there's a couple shows I'm not going to this season, but I'll do wrap-ups. I'll watch the live stream and I'll give my comments. And you know, I definitely like to criticize, and it's really good that I haven't got a couple clients in certain state shows, because I can't be perceived from a position of bias, and I will be able to give my opinion and really critique it. So at the end of the day, I'm only interested in what I believe is the right judging, and I think that some cases, you know, there is an incorrect interpretation of the judging criteria, and that's when decisions can be subjective. And if I don't agree with something, I'm going to voice it on the podcast.
Yeah, and share what you think. I love it how you make your calls and you talk about what's important. I think it's good that, because a lot of coaches shy away, like you said, you can seem biased, but it's important to like show that you're actually an expert, or like, you know, exactly what you're talking about. You can say what the difference is and who will win. People ask you that all the time, who's winning, and you go through it all. And I love that. You're really like technical. So what shows will you be going to this year in IFBB, the Australian regionals or whatever? Which ones will you be going to?
Yeah, so I won't be going to WA and the South Australian show.
Oh,
so I'll be going to the Victorian show, the New South Wales show in Queensland, and then obviously I think Nationals is in Queensland again. So yeah, so we'll be going to those three, which I feel like they're the three stronger shows as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing who wins the SA and the WA show anyway. But sometimes a client, you know, will be from another state and I'm like, oh, I might want to do another show. Do I go doing the SA show? So that might happen. And in that case, I will probably attend. But sometimes it's just good to focus on the state show and then move on and qualify, do nationals.
Yeah, nice. And like Brisbane, is it the Queensland one? It's like the biggest one usually. It's got the most stacked lineup, especially bikini.
I think this year the bikini lineup it's stronger in New South Wales. So yeah, so it's definitely stronger in New South Wales based on, like, I've got very, very strong athletes from New South Wales, and there's some other good competitors there. So I definitely think that New South Wales will have, there's some real strong pro card contenders in New South Wales, and there's a couple from Victoria. So it's I think the pro card's going to come from Victoria or New South Wales, but we'll see. We'll know straight away after we see how they look on stage.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you, who do you think is getting the pro card, but we might leave that. I don't know. I don't want to put that on you right now. But what about wellness? Do you think wellness is coming in good?
Wellness is a bit, I mean, it lacks depth. There's not a lot of competitors. Like last season in Australia, at least, there wasn't a lot of competitors. New Zealand's the same thing. It's not a very popular category. And it's interesting. The whole intention of wellness coming in was to be just a slight upgrade from bikini, and now they're monsters. And it's like, it's not really an ideal look for a lot of competitors. Not a lot of ladies are like, yeah, this is cool, I want to do wellness. It's like, no, I've got to take a lot of PEDs to get to that level. And are women really wanting to do that? Not a lot are, and some are, and that's fine. But once they realize what's required to go to that next level, they might get their pro card, they might do their pro debut, and they'll go, damn, I've got to push it. I've got, whether they qualify for the Olympia or not. So I think that, wellness is probably, we talked about bikini going towards perhaps being unattainable. Wellness, attending the wellness Olympia last year, or attending the Olympia and watching the wellness category last year, I mean, I was mind blown at the top 10, like just the level of density that they have. Like they've got, I mean, people say that figure is an upgrade from wellness, right? That's what the general consensus is in terms of density. There's no chance. Like the wellness girls have bigger legs than the women's bodybuilders, and that's not debatable. That's just facts. Like it's absurd how big these girls are in real life.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think it might have even been you who put up a comparison of like, what the fuck is the bodybuilding and the wellness chicks? Why are they bigger than, like, what is going on here? But Francielli still is the winner, and she's still got that look that's like not quite as fucking dense and massive as some of these other chicks like Gazelle and these other winners that have won over the last few shows like Carissa and whatnot. But do you think Francielli will get it again and just like re-establish that we're not going fucking massive, we're going to this? Like Francielli's shoulders are like the bikini shoulder. Like there's not as much density. I think she's a perfect Olympian. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, the problem is that is she going to progress with her physique, right? Is she going to continue to grow? Which that's what bodybuilding is. Like you want to keep improving. So I think she was a clear winner at the Olympia last year. When I seen her in real life, I was like, okay. Like I remember when she won her first Olympia on the live stream, it was clear cut on a live stream. But being there in person, same thing. It was very clear cut where she just dominated the lineup. There was no, oh, is she going to win? To me, it was clear walkout win. Whereas bikini was open where you're like, oh, wow, this is interesting. So I definitely think that she'll walk in and win if she brings the same look, or she probably will bring a look that's maybe a little bit fuller. But yeah, same thing. I just think that the federation probably will need to look at how big they want to get and what's the limit. Is wellness then going to be a complete, let's say, a development? Is it going to be heading towards bodybuilding in the context of let's get the legs as big and gnarly and nastier? Like the gnarlier and nastier, the better. Like I think that's what the goal is now. Whereas I don't think that was the intention for wellness in the beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong, what your thoughts are there, but yeah, these girls have got dinosaur legs. So it's like, how big is the legs going to end up being before they're just, I don't know, like completely wacky looking, which they kind of already are.
Yeah, they already are. These pro shows, the winners of the pro shows in the USA over the last 6 months have just been out the fucking gate. Like, it's just crazy. It's gone way from Francielli into this whole other look, and everyone's freaking out about it. But everyone's like, it's just, they were the best on the day. And it's like, fuck, I don't know. Like, their waist is like tank as well, but it's just interesting. We'll see what happens at the Olympia this year. We'll see what happens. We're going to talk about PEDs real quick, especially in the bikini division. It's always talked about. There was someone going around at the show that we just had, not this weekend, but the one before that, backstage, telling all the girls that they need to be jumping on gear if they're going to even compete in bikini, and just getting in all their heads. And there was a lot of first timers there, and it was just like, it's fucking unnecessary for first timers anyway. But what are your thoughts on PED? Is it actually really essential in the bikini division? Is it just something that it depends on your genetics? Like, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of factors. I mean, there's examples of competitors. For example, Barbara that just won the overall, but we spoke off air about, her package at the recent show. She's a natural athlete, and she was very dense, very super conditioned. And when I say natural, I'm talking about no clenbuterol, like nothing at all. So people will say, oh, I'm natural, but then they'll use clenbuterol or they'll use something else. It's like, no, like natural means no PEDs, like at whatsoever. So that's an example. And she's put herself in a position to achieve that level of density because she's had a long off season. I started working with her in 2021, late 2021, and we've had this whole off season to put on size, and she already came to me pretty well developed. So she's put in the time, and you know, she wanted to put herself in a position to earn a pro card, and she's definitely in that position now. Whether she earns a pro card at nationals or not, we'll have to wait and see. But she's very close. She'll be knocking on the door and be one of the favorites, right? But she decided, I want a pro card, I want to do whatever it takes, and I want to stay natural. And we've never honestly had a PED discussion, her and I. She never said to me, hey, what are your thoughts on things? And I've never suggested anything. So I think that a lot of ladies will come to me and they'll want to rush the process, and they will say, you know, what do you think about PEDs? Obviously, they have a massive advantage. Is it really necessary? I think it depends on the level that you're at. So I've had ladies on the team that have won pro cards natural. I've had ladies that have won pro cards just with clenbuterol. And then I've also had ladies win pro cards with, you know, PEDs, like with steroids. So it just depends on the individual, their genetics, their training, their compliance. There's so many factors that come into play, and the time that they've, you know, spent in the gym. So it's like, you know, someone like, if you've got a natural competitor who's completely committed their time and craft in the gym and they've been all in for 5 years, they're going to have a lot of density and development. If you're 1 or 2 years into the sport and you've been fluffing around, or you maybe didn't have the right coach, and like, I've been training for 5 years, but yeah, if you haven't had the right coach and you haven't been pushing calories and the strategy isn't there, that's why I said, like before, who would I hire? Hani Rambod, because I would want to get there as quick as possible, right? With the best result possible. So if you've hired a coach that has no experience in achieving great results, to me, I honestly look at that and go, that doesn't count as an off season, you know, because clearly you've been 5 years as a competitor, you haven't achieved a lot. I don't think it's because you're natural. It's because you actually haven't had the right game plan. You haven't increased your calories. You know, you haven't been training like a bikini competitor, or to the criteria, or to a level of intensity that's been required. But most of the time, it's not enough calories. So I think, yeah, a lot of ladies will think that PEDs is necessary. But I mean, there's probably ladies that were on PEDs at that recent show that Barbara was in. And I mean, Barbara, I believe, was a very clear standout and won pretty easily from my perspective. I don't know how it was in real life. It looked like that in the live stream. But there's examples of ladies that have done really well. We'll also have ladies that will probably, you know, they'll jump the gun, that will compete, you know, within 18 months, they're on PEDs and they'll win a show. Okay, great. You've gone through it, and you know, you might be dedicated. You might have gone all in and be really on point with it. And that's your choice. That's fine. But is it necessary to win a regional show or a state show or national title? No. Like I said, pro cards have had ladies achieve naturally, overall titles naturally. Juniors, I've had ladies that are junior competitors that are under, you know, a certain age, that have won overall titles, and they beat ladies that are on PEDs. So it's all about the individual and the athlete and the game plan. So are they needed? Depends on what the outcome is that you're looking for. But if you're a natural competitor, if you give yourself enough time and planning, like I said, Barbara, long off season since since late 2021. So we've had all this time to put on size, and she's listened to everything, and she's put on size consistently throughout the process. And she's put herself in a position to have that density.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, she looks amazing. Like, you can tell she's been working hard for a long time, and it shows, you know. And the difference between IFBB and WBFF, do you notice that there's more women that are on PEDs than the other? Is it more dominant in IFBB? I would assume IFBB, but is it just mixed? Is it pretty fucking fair across the board?
Yeah, it's hard to say, because sometimes I'll look at an athlete and I'll think they're natural, like genuinely, and then I get told they're on PEDs. I'm just like, wow, like, are they on fake stuff? Are they just not training hard? Like, sometimes that happens. And, you know, I'll have people that will say, oh, your competitors are using, or Troy's a drug lord, or he pushes PEDs. And I'll literally have my best athletes of a season A or season B. A lot of the time, it's ironically, they're natural competitors. And the ladies that, there's some ladies are on the team that are using PEDs, and I have natural competitors that look better. So, you know, there's a lot of factors that can determine that. So it's just, I think the sport is very interesting. And what happens is, more than anything, is people focus on, I have to do PEDs to do bikini or whatever category, but they don't focus on the variables that they can control, which is their nutrition compliance, their training, their execution of movement, the tempo, their intensity in the gym, and being consistent long enough. So it's like, if you're doing that, focus on those variables first. And then if you want to enhance that later down the road, sure, you can look at that. But I think to say that you need to be doing PEDs to achieve a certain result is probably not the best way to go about things. It's not actually true.
No, and the chick that said it, I think she got beaten anyway. So it's always
yeah,
that
and she's probably and she'd probably be thinking that, you know, someone like Barbara's on PEDs and just not know that. And to be fair, Barbara kind of does look like it. She's got like really crazy density. You know, she's got like low body fat. And but the thing is that we just had the right game plan. I've had her all this time in the off season. This is another thing. You go with the right coach in an off season and you go, I want to achieve a pro card. I'm like, cool. I'm going to take your goal really seriously. So I came up with a game plan with Barbara to put herself in a very strong position before prep, where her metabolism is jamming and her weight wasn't too high in the off season. So I could easily get her in shape. She was in shape probably at least 4 weeks out, maybe even 6 weeks out, like pretty close to stage condition. I had her calories up the whole time. So, you know, if anyone wants to chat to Barbara and tell her, and she'll tell you her story, like I just plan things diligently. And to be honest, I probably got her in condition a little bit too early, but that's not a bad thing. It just means she was eating a lot of calories into the show. So it's all about planning at the end of the day.
Yeah. And she's one of those people that isn't like social like tell everyone about, like she just little bits out here and there. And it's like, I didn't even know she was from New Zealand. So when she came up, I was like, what the fuck? How is this in Oamaru? Like there's nothing in Oamaru except for Barbara just killing it. But it's cool. I love it when they don't share, they don't post, they just do it. And then they just turn up and fuck everyone up. It's just amazing. I love that shit. It's so good. We need more of that, and I'm sure we're going to have more of that anyway. What about with men? Do you feel like men are just jumping on the juice too young, too quick, just crazy out of their mate's backpack? Like, do you think guys are just being a little bit crazy, or do you think it's not that bad? I don't know, because I don't know about the men.
Yeah, it comes down to coaching as well, and it's different with the guys categories where, you know, if you look at men's physique Olympia, the reality is these guys are jacked as shit, right? So to achieve, let's say, for example, a men's physique pro card naturally is probably not going to happen. You know, so the unfortunate thing is that that's my opinion. That's my reality. I don't coach men's physique. There are probably outliers. I know that. Actually, you know what? Sorry, I take that back. There's a competitor that I know that won a pro card naturally as a men's physique athlete. And he's like a freak of freaks, like crazy genetics, like absolutely retarded genetics. So it's possible, but he's an outlier. That I wouldn't suggest that that's the standard. So yeah, is it possible? Absolutely. If people work hard, they've got the genetics for it, etc. And then if they've got really crazy genetics and they can achieve that naturally, once they enhance, they're obviously going to be a top level Olympian. So there are a lot of variables that come into play with it, right? So I just think, yeah, men's physique is probably a bit more challenging. And obviously classic bodybuilding is 0% it's going to happen. Bodybuilding is 0%. So it just depends on the category.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe genetics could get you there in men's physique, but you slim chance because of the fucking caliber is crazy, man. It's nuts. Was that fun to watch at Olympia? To watch the guys as well? Like the guys are freakish, so it must be entertaining. Yeah.
So bodybuilding these days, not so much. I think because my perspective has changed. I mean, I look at things and some people may not be happy with this. It could be an unpopular opinion, right? But I think that this sport definitely, it's a problem because I came into the sport probably with, let's say, an unhealthy psychology, right? And the way that I view the world and my ideology has changed. And as my psychology has changed, so has my opinion on doing things for a certain result. So I respect the sport first and foremost, but I think that bodybuilding now is hard for me to really enjoy at a high level because I understand what it takes to a degree psychologically to put themselves in position to want to get that big. So it's not about their training and the effort that they put in. Sure, they do a lot of effort, but I would say that psychologically, these people aren't the happiest people in the world. Because if you need to abuse your body to get to that level, the reality is that you've got very low self-esteem and you've probably got underlying mental health issues that you haven't addressed. And for me, I definitely had that. So speaking from experience, and I'm sure that there's probably, if there is bodybuilders listening to this, they're not going to be happy with it. But the reality is that once you really dissect everything, if you develop a level of self-awareness and look at your life and go, is abusing steroids or using steroids to that level something that is in line with my path? You know, is it really going to be a long-term sustainable solution for my happiness? And the answer is probably not. And you can take that as you want, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you're talking about. And I totally get that as well. Like that makes sense to me. Because like it's just such a crazy sport to do. And it's just like you have to be a little bit fucking nuts. You have to be to like keep going that far and like put your family on hold. I just know whatever you have to do, man. It's crazy. Why don't you coach men anymore? Or like, because I think you said you did. Why don't you do that anymore?
For those reasons where I don't want to encourage drug use to that level.
Yeah.
And it's people look at things like at the end result. Psychologically, using steroids, it changes you. There's no doubt about it. And when people are vulnerable in a psychological sense, and there's a lot of things like if for example, bodybuilders went, let's say, and I'm saying the term bodybuilders is a general thing because not everyone's the same. There's different levels of self-esteem. There's different levels of mental health issues. But if the pool of bodybuilders, right, went and actually had a psych assessment, there's probably a lot of things that they can work on. So do I want to encourage someone that's not mentally healthy or that doesn't have a certain level of mental health to use PEDs for an outcome that I know is going to be detrimental to their mental health in the long run? No, I don't want to be a part of that. So for me, it's hard to be excited about that idea. And then because I have that ideology about it and I view things in that sense, it's hard for me to have a passion or to enjoy that side of things. The reason why I like Bikini is because to me, it's a healthier, sustainable solution. That's why I look at, Issa Pacini, I'm thinking, yeah, she's freaky, but it's unattainable. And if that is the look, pretty much everyone's going to need to go on PEDs, right? That's the reality. There's not going to be, you can win an overall title, you can win a pro card natural, but if you're competing against someone like Issa Pacini with how she looked recently, you're going to need to go on PEDs. So that again is it's a trade-off. It's like, what is the goal? How do we keep someone as mentally healthy as possible while achieving a certain result? And the truth is that a lot of people are mentally unhealthy and they go into the sport because they're insecure. They want a bit of validation, or perhaps they want a challenge and they're battling demons and they're using those demons like a chip on their shoulder to push past and do their training, to do their cardio. And their internal dialogue is based on, fuck you, I'm going to prove you wrong, versus being about themselves. And they've got all these issues. So it's like, there's so many things that come into play. And I think, when you add PEDs into the mix with someone that's mentally unhealthy, there is a level of, there's a duty of care that is really neglected in coaching. And I think a lot of people need to be mentally healthy, or at least mentally okay to put themselves in a position to compete. And then if you add the PEDs in, I've had, I remember there was one competitor that I had, I will never say who it is. There was a bikini competitor. And I noticed there was a significant difference in her behavior when she was on PEDs. And her goal was a pro card and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Because I knew who she was as an individual, I was like, we have to stay natural. Like, I cannot recommend and I can encourage. And this is someone that obviously used. So when you're someone that's used PEDs before, and I'm your coach and I'm guiding you and trying to give you the right advice, and I'm saying, listen, PEDs aren't for you right now, it's hard for them to take that guidance.
Yeah.
But for me, I was more concerned about how she was feeling on a day-to-day basis and making sure that her life wasn't affected. So her relationships with the people that she was having, whether it was, with her friends, whether it was with her family, etc., it was impacted. And for her, I suggest for her to stay natural, because I could see that the PEDs was definitely creating life problems. And people will sacrifice their life and put up with these, let's say, poor decision making or poor behavior because they want the result, but they don't realize the impact that it's having on their everyday life. And they'll go, oh, it's family, oh, it's this, oh, it's prep. No, it's just because you're in a contest prep doesn't mean you can be an asshole. You can be a good person and go, I'm depleted, but I'm still a person that's happy to get after it. I'm building momentum, but people will use it as an excuse sometimes. And in some cases, for example, this girl, she really struggled hormonally, I suppose, and her aggression and the impact that she was having on the people around her wasn't positive. So I had to, there is navigating through that as a coach and going, it's probably not the best thing for you based on what you're telling me and what's going on. So yeah, it's the bodybuilding world is a very interesting world where there's not one right approach. You can only make the right call as a coach based on the information you receive. That's why it's so important. Even it doesn't matter if you're a bikini competitor, you're a bodybuilder, whatever. If you're completely transparent with your coach about everything that's going on, your coach can only help guide you based on the information they're receiving. That's why open communication and being vulnerable is so important. And for me, I welcome that. I actually appreciate when ladies are honest. Like my favorite athletes that I work with are the ones that are honest, whether they cheat on their diet, whether they're having a bad day, whether they're emotional. Like, at least I know what I need to do with you and what I can, and there's a certain way to approach it, whether it's contest prep or off season. So authenticity always wins, because you're going to be able to get the help that you need, the level of support, the communication, whatever it might be. Whereas if you hide these issues, and if she, for example, that competitor wasn't telling me what was going on, I wouldn't be aware of that. And she'd probably still be, cycling on and off PEDs, for that end result, not knowing it was impacting her life.
Yeah. That's why you have a coach. That's why you've got a team, someone to have your back, and like actually knows, they can see and know what is the right thing to do. So always be transparent with your coaches, everybody. Not enough people do that. Talking about the New Zealand caliber, anytime they introduce athletes to come out and they say, coached by Troy Thornton, everybody knows this person's going to be fucking sick. And they always are. And we're like, oh, fuck, here's another Troy's, like one of these girls to push us up. But what do you think about our caliber of what we've got on the New Zealand stage so far? I think it's only going to get better in our season at the moment, and just keep getting better. It's just been amazing this last couple shows. But do you reckon it's getting better over the years, worse over the years? What do you think that we need in New Zealand to set our standard a bit higher?
I think it's just consistency in the game. So it's like, if ladies are wanting to go to that next level and be that standout competitor, commit to a goal, whatever that goal is. If you want to win an overall title, even if you've never competed before and you're in the crowd and you're like, I want to be that next competitor that shocks everybody, right? Come up with a game plan, build the size that you need to build, take your off season seriously, work with a coach that has the results, and then you just select a show. So it's like, build the size that's required to be competitive to the goal that you want to achieve, and then select the show. I have ladies that will come to me and say, hey, I want to compete now. And I'm like, okay, what is the goal? I want to win. I'm like, you don't really have the size probably to be competitive, to be put in that position to win. That doesn't mean that you're going to win, right? But it's like, I think people rush it. So it's like going back to the basics and committing to the consistency of it, selecting the right coach, coming up with the right game plan, and believing in yourself. So many competitors won't believe in themselves, and that will then be reflective of the caliber. And then I'll say to the New Zealand girls, don't just look at inspiration from the girls that compete in New Zealand. Like when I first competed, going back to my story, which was cool that you brought that up. I went to an Australian show and I looked at the overall winner, and even the guy that won the category, the junior category. And my goal was to win junior. My goal wasn't to be an overall winner. I was like, I want to win the junior bodybuilding competition. I didn't think it was possible as a natural competitor to win, at least with my development, an overall title. So I was realistic with my goal, given the timeline. And I was like, I want to win this. I don't think that the caliber is great in Australia. I'm going to look elsewhere for inspiration. And as I did that, I got a coach that was American. I took a risk. I spent a lot of money on it. I learned the knowledge, etc. And I put myself in a position to win. So if the caliber isn't great in New Zealand, look elsewhere for inspiration and say, that is the quality of physique that I want to showcase on stage. I will do whatever I can possible to be that person, to be that standard. And then you can. And then if you come out and be a Barbara and just, demolish everyone and have condition, have posing, have balance, right? And those crazy glutes from the rear, right? Girls are going to be in the audience going, damn, like that's insane. Like, you know what? Maybe I can do that. And then inspiration will come from Barbara competing rather than ladies overseas. So I think, trying to find who inspires you. If you need to look overseas if you think the caliber is not great in New Zealand. But I think more people just need to commit to serious goals and to commit to the idea of taking it seriously. Because I see the biggest problem with results is the lack of consistency, whether it's in the off season, whether it's in their prep, and the belief. Like I can have belief in a client that I work with, but if they're not prepared to do the work, if they're not prepared to believe in themselves, and I will say, hey, listen, you can be great. But if they don't see that, and if they don't believe it, or at least they don't have the idea of wanting to believe it, they're not going to achieve it. And they're going to cheat on their diet. They're going to say, oh, I didn't have this. I don't know why, but I keep stuffing up, and they don't change their behavior. So it's like, it all stems from your own internal belief and that desire. And like I said, that desire can come from watching Barbara, watching the next overall champion, or watching Laura Lee at the Olympia, or whatever it might be. But create that desire and know that's your goal, and then go all in. So that's why I think about the caliber.
Yeah, nice.
Get inspired, ladies.
Yeah, get inspired. I always follow the Olympians because they are setting the standard. And I know that I'm not going to look like that in my first year, but it's a good place to look. Like, you're looking at the top. why would we look at anything at, like, look at the top, aim for as best as you can to that. It shouldn't get in your head and fuck with you, because you should be strong enough before you're competing to do that. But also I think the other thing in New Zealand is a little bit of that whole, I don't have to try that hard because our caliber's shit, so I'll do good anyway, kind of that kind of attitude. Like, they feel like it's a little, oh, it's only New Zealand, it's so small, I should be able to do well easy enough if I still cheat on my diet, that kind of mindset. Whereas it's getting harder, but I still feel like people feel that way, they feel like they can cheat because it's less lower caliber or whatever.
I mean, look, if you want to, at the end of the day, the sport, I believe, is about being the best you can be. If you want to challenge yourself to being the best that you can be, regardless of the competition, you want to step it up and make yourself proud, and not be like, you know what, I won this show because I was half in, and I'm making excuses if I don't win because I was half-assed. So no, do your best. And if you, for example, go all in and you lose anyway, that's okay. Yeah. There is a level of satisfaction knowing you did everything in your power to get the job done. And sometimes as a coach, my goal is always to win or put these ladies in a position. Like, some ladies will have a goal to be top call out. Some will want to be top 3, and I'll work within their goal and I'll push. If they say top 3, I'm like, let's see if we can push for a win here. Right. And then if they don't win, and I know that they did everything, and I know I did everything, although I'm like, damn, it sucks that they didn't win, I'm proud, and I know that I can move forward and be like, you know what, we did a great job.
Yeah.
But if you're half-assing shit, and I know someone's cheated on their diet and I'm coaching them, I'm like, you could have been in that position if you didn't fuck around. That is something that's challenging to live with, and to think that you could have been a better athlete, you could have had a better result. It's like, no, like, go all in. And ladies, I tell you now, if I've got competitors in the show and you're half-assing it, right? I don't have a lot of New Zealand girls. It's going to be game over. Like, my girls are going to be in the best shape possible. So yeah, good luck with that theory.
Yeah, it's not going to work, man. You have to pick it up, guys. It has to be done. Like, you can tell if you've been cheating on your diet. So let's talk about your girls just quickly. We've talked about Barbara. She's amazing. She's going to be at Nationals, right? She's going to continue through for Pro Card.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then we've got another bunch of your girls coming up. We've got Afia, who I follow. She's going to be at Wellington this weekend, right? And then you've got Rachel Mead, who's going to be in my show, same height class as well. So thanks for that. And then you had, I think her name's Ellie. It's Lemon Loves Lifting on Instagram. I think it's Ellie. She was at Body of Steel. How do you think she went? She came a close second, and the chick who beat her had a different look for bikini. Like, she was still bikini, but she had a different look. She had more of the square glutes and stuff like that. I don't know if you saw it, but what did you think? What did you think about that show? If you did catch any of it earlier in the season, do you remember that?
Yeah, I did watch it. So Ali's from Australia, but she wanted to do a New Zealand show just because she wanted to challenge herself and have a different experience. I think that she definitely had a better experience at the New Zealand show in terms of the backstage and better the onstage experience. So that was good. So ladies that are in Australia, you can go to New Zealand if you want and do a New Zealand show. Obviously, that's a bigger expense. Yeah. Back in the day, there used to be some Australians that did it, but now not so much. I'm not sure if they can do New Zealand nationals, though. I think there's a rule against that. Probably not. But when there was more pro cards available, you could. Now I don't think it's possible. But yeah, with her, how did I feel about that? I think that her posing wasn't up to standard, so that would have let her down. If she displayed the physique that I know that she can, the way that I think if she posed better, she would have won that show. To me, that's what let her down. Her confidence on stage, the transitions, the walk, her posture, everything. So, I mean, the physique was good enough to win, but I can see why that she didn't. So I didn't have a problem with her being in second based on that, because there's a lot of things that come into, it's not just a conditioning show. Yeah. You need to have the posing, the confidence, the size. You need to be full in the right areas. So if you're got the right physique and you're really under posing and you're not showing off, and opening up, and if you're on the lighter side, if you don't have the density and you're not opening up, you're going to look even smaller to the judges. And then, that girl who won, probably not the smallest waist, but a bit more density, so when she opened up, she had a lot more size. So not being there in person, it was hard to see. Like, I'm always going to favor condition. Yeah. But if an athlete that I'm working with doesn't win, I will look at the reasons why she didn't win. So it's not just, did I agree with the decision? Okay, I'm going to look at it and go, okay, it's a toss up. I'm not there in real life. I can't see. Yeah. I can see why they went with the other girl. But I'm like, all right, what could have we done better? The posing needed to be worked on massively. And that was obviously the feedback from the judges as well. So I was fine with that decision.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, she looked amazing though. And she competed in the season A, didn't she? In the Aussie season A, did she compete there too?
Yeah, she competed in season A Aussie.
I saw her there as well. So yeah, good on her. She's doing great. And I'm glad, I like these Aussies coming over to New Zealand. I like them pushing us, like give us something to work for, man. Like make us work hard. The Kiwis are great, but it's always good to have a little bit of extra. What was posing. Let's talk about posing. So I know that you're like a Nazi for posing a little bit, like you have to be, it's part of it. What is the importance of it and the importance of practice and improving like that as a craft? Like, what do you think about posing? And do you think people are doing enough in posing, practicing enough, or do you think there's more that people should be doing?
Yeah, I mean, just as a perfect example, what we just mentioned just then, like, you know, Ali could have won, I believe, on posing. You know, maybe the judges wouldn't have seen it that way, but you can't judge potential. And posing can be the difference in first or second and when it's close. If there's an argument, an athlete's better conditioned, but one has more development and fullness, and one's not opening up with their posing, one's a lot more confident, big smile on their face, posing a bit more to the criteria, it's hard to ignore it's hard to ignore someone that's got a really good smile on stage that's shining, right? You just got to, like, if I'm in the audience and I'm watching the show and I don't have a competitor in it, I'm always drawn to the better posers and their level of charisma and confidence, even if they're not in the best shape. I automatically favor posing. I look at it like two things I really love is condition and then posing. But if you've got condition without the posing, I'd rather watch a show where everyone's a good poser, everyone has great charisma, than everyone being in condition. Because if you're in condition, don't have the posing, it's frustrating to watch, because I'm like, you're in condition, but you're not posing to that level. So ladies will be so obsessed with getting condition, and then they won't put the same level of effort into their posing.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating. So yeah, you're only as good as the physique you can display. So posing is so damn important. And I mean, Ali's example is perfect. Maybe she probably won't be too happy that I said that, but that's the feedback that I've given her too. Like, I'm always honest with my athletes and I'm hard on them to give them what they need. There's no sugarcoating, you know? So whether it's my athlete that isn't posing up to standard or what I believe is the standard, or whether it's someone else, I'll criticize them. And a lot of the time my athletes pose very, very well. So for me to say one of my athletes didn't pose to standard, you know, that's a little bit disappointing, but that's cool. That's something that we can work on. And that's something that, you know, I'll give feedback on. And I knew that was something that we had to work on consistently through prep. Probably didn't have enough time to get that done, but she did improve a lot through her prep, but needs to continue to improve, you know, moving forward. So for ladies so many ladies will be like, oh, Troy, you know, I'm in my off season. I was thinking about starting posing 16 weeks out. I'll have a client that just starts with me. I had one just recently, literally just onboarded her, sent her a program, and she was a WBFF competitor. And I said, no, we start posing now. So send me posing videos. Let me assess things. And also, you know, we need to select a posing coach that you can work with, because we start now. Because how many times have you seen ladies that have started too early that it's been a bad thing? Like, it's not a bad thing to start early at all. Like, most ladies don't pose to the best of their ability on stage. It's just a reality. So it's like, if, you know, you're watching ladies in the audience as a competitor, as an athlete, and you're thinking, oh, wow, like there was no standout poser. Doesn't that compute in your head and think, damn, like these girls aren't up to standard. Therefore, like maybe I need to start posing early so I can be the standard, or I can pose to the best of my ability. So to me, it's a no-brainer. I just think there's so many no-brainers in this industry. And there's so many things of like, all right, that's what they're doing. That's the result. That's probably not what to do. Therefore, I'm going to do the opposite, which is starting posing early, which is getting a coach with results, you know, which is not cheating on my diet, doing all the basics, right? It's like, I just don't get it. Like, a lot of ladies will ask for tips. It's just consistency and hard work, really. Like, there are some details that matter, but at the end of the day, it's about effort. If you're posing every day, you're probably going to be a good poser. If you pose once a week, you're going to look like you pose once a week.
Yeah, you can tell. You can fucking tell straight away. And you can't get it perfect enough. So just keep fucking practicing. Everyone needs to do it. Do you have preferences on posing coaches, like in New Zealand and Australia or overseas? Do you have like your favorites in each place that you like to prefer or things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, there are a few, and ladies will get triggered, judges will get triggered, and the result, it's like at the end of the day, if I've got ladies that I'm working with on the team and I don't agree with the posing coach, I'll just say so. And that's because I know that I'm going to be conflicting with them. So it's not personal. It's about too many people will take things personally. Like, I will say publicly a lot of the time if I agree with the posing coach or not. And there's some coaches that aren't up to standard, and they might have ties with judges or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, if you've got a personal relationship with a posing coach and you know wholeheartedly that they don't pose at a high level, and then you're getting triggered because I don't want to work with them, you're an absolute douchebag moron. You don't have self-awareness, or you're so biased you can't look past your own bullshit. Like, you don't have high, or maybe you're just completely oblivious and you think that she poses great and has great posing clients and you have low standards, but I don't. So yeah, there's certain, the best thing to do is send me a DM, because I have my top three. My top three in Australia is Renee Garner, Nay DeChico, and Taylor Madison, or Taylor Smith. Those three are my top three. There are other ladies that I will say yes to. For example, there's Catherine Kavanagh in Perth. I like her as well. And I don't mind Shell Skelton in South Australia. There's some examples.
Nice.
There are other coaches that are getting better in Australia that I've seen, like Donna Atkins has improved. And I've seen improvements in her. And that's the thing, like I look at her work and I'm like, I actually said to her maybe a few weeks ago, I said, you've actually gotten a lot better. Does that mean I'm going to recommend her precisely? No. My top three is my top three. And back in the day, I remember Taylor, you know, I've had a really long relationship with her, and she was like, why don't you recommend me to, you know, as one of your posing coaches, right? And if anything, I want her to do well. I've known her for a very long time. I said, because you're not up to standard. Like, I cannot recommend you to my girls when you're not posing at the level that I need you to. So you need to level your shit up, and then I'll start referring you clients, but you're not on that level. I'm like, I prefer this coach because she can do this better than you. She was triggered as fuck.
Yeah.
Right. But that was the feedback that she needed.
Yeah.
So you want business from me? Okay, I'll give you business if you prove that you're capable of giving the result. It's not personal. It's about giving the best result to the client. So if you're not in my top three, perhaps you need to prove yourself. You need to do the work. So yeah, it is Taylor, it is Renee, and it's Nay. And all three of them have their positives, all three have their negatives, but they're the top three. And if you want to be in the top three, put the work in and show it and prove it. And if you can't, if you're not capable and you're triggered, you're not working hard enough. So that's on you.
Yeah. I love it. They're so good. They're so good. Just make them hungry, Troy. Fucking push them. Can I just ask you about Nay real quick? Because I love her. I'm obsessed with her. Can you tell her what are you guys doing next, and when's your next comp? Can you tell us anything about that, or is it a little bit under wraps?
Yeah, it's under wraps at the moment. So, yeah. So she will definitely, I'm sure, will make an announcement when she's ready. And yeah, she's putting on a lot of size. So it'll be interesting to see the direction. But I mean, look, you can see that she's put on a lot of size. So you can somewhat assume what she might be doing in terms of category. Maybe you can't, but yeah, she's obviously upgrading from bikini.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone knows that. So it's just a matter of what exactly.
Yeah, nice. And she'll obviously be back on stage at some stage, so we can all see her then. But she's just amazing to watch. And if you haven't seen her, you need to go and follow her because she's amazing. How do you stay on track health-wise? Because you travel all the freaking time. You're all over the place. How do you look after yourself, like nutritionally and like stuff like that? How do you look after yourself? Yeah.
So actually, it's interesting because, and we all need to give ourselves reality checks, right? So I'm a realist, and I remember, because I pretty much moved to Dubai in June last year. So June 2022, moved to Dubai, and I probably neglected myself a bit. So it's easy to make excuses, and people say, oh, it's because you got clients, and you got so many clients and you put all your effort. Yeah, that's all excuses to the reason why I'm not being my best self. I'm being a slob. So I did see myself putting on weight. I wasn't training consistently. And I noticed this November last year in photos, where I'd take photos in like a group setting, and I'd look at my face, I'm like, oh, I've got a chubby ass face. Like, I don't look good. Right. And I wasn't training. And then I was like, I remember that in November. I'm like, all right, I need to stop eating crap. Right. Because I was going out too much and whatever, like having social events and making the wrong choices with food. So I'm like, I need to cut the crap. Then December, I started like, you know, dieting to a degree. Even if I wasn't training, I'm like, I can at least eat clean. Got to Olympia, at least I was slim, not very muscular. And then when I was at the Olympia, I looked around and thought, wow, all these coaches, there were so many coaches that were high level that were overweight. Wow. And not only were they overweight, they weren't well groomed. They just didn't look presentable. And I thought, is this like a thing, like where people just make the excuse that they're too busy to be in shape and look after themselves? Like, how can you have all this knowledge as a coach and not put the effort in. And I mean, like, obviously I came to that realization that I wasn't, and that was a wake-up call. I'm like, I will never be like that. So remember we said before, you find out a lot about not what to do.
Yeah.
So being at the Olympia, seeing these coaches, I was like, yeah, that's not what I want to do. I need to have a level of health and a level of leanness. If I'm not overly muscular, I need to be lean. So the Olympia was really cool for a bit of inspiration for me from a coaching point of view. I was like, I need to stay in shape. I don't need to be overly muscular. But now, like, I'm pretty lean. Like, I don't know how to measure it, but if I, for example, not that I'm overly muscular, but if I wanted to do a prep, I could be in like proper bodybuilding shape, like striated glutes and everything within maximum 8 weeks. So I'm pretty lean now year round, like where I've got, like, let's say striations in my chest and my triceps and my quads right now. And I just manage my food. So a lot of the time I fast in the morning, just have water only. I might have my first meal at lunchtime, depending how it is. I'll manage my calories. I don't even count calories. So when I say manage calories, I mean manage my food volume. I don't count calories. I do weigh my food sometimes where I know roughly what I'm eating. So in a sense, I suppose I know how much carbohydrates I'm having per meal and I can assess how I'm looking, but I'm not overly anal. Like, I haven't used my MyFitnessPal for years to put I don't have a nutrition plan. I'll eat on feel. So I like to stay in decent condition and not be too obsessed with my diet and like, let's say, bodybuilding, because I don't have a goal associated. So my goal is to stay lean. And I find that fasting in the morning, I have a level of energy. As soon as I have my first meal, it's like boom, a little bit of a slope, like where it's like a carb hit, and I'm just like, oh, I feel a little bit less alert. So by fasting and water only, or maybe coffee, whatever, I feel very alert. And I feel like that's really good for someone that doesn't compete or is not aspiring to put on a lot of muscle. The idea of fasting for energy is really good. I kind of like being hungry, so it gives me a great sensation. So that's something that I do, that I practice, that I really like, just for being alert. And I just make smart choices with my food. And then if I happen to go out, which I do like, enjoy going out to dinners quite often, I will calorie bank throughout the day and have less calories I just make the right call and go, all right, I'm going to have pasta. Like last night I went out to a nice Italian restaurant, so I ate less calories throughout the day, like less carbohydrates, and I just reduced the portion size. So I made that commitment last year to, always be in good shape and be lean and fit. And then I just adjust my calories as I need to. And if I, for example, find that I'm putting on weight or I don't like how I'm looking, then I'll just cut back the calories. But I don't necessarily, I don't count calories, but I kind of know what I'm eating.
Yeah, nice. You know what you're doing anyway. It's not like your first rodeo. Do you drink much?
Socially, but not much. Like, what did I do? Last time I drank, or let's say I got drunk, was at my best friend's wedding, which was in Bali in June. So that was cool. Before that, I can't recall the last time. So yeah, it's not something that I do often. So special occasions.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, can't deal with a hangover these days. You're getting older, man. I can't.
Hey, if you wake up and you're not, you're not inspired and you're not ready to take on the day, you probably didn't do the right thing the night before.
Yeah, 100%. Fucking hang, I can't do it. It's the worst. So that's good. That's nice to know. And it's good to be a healthy coach. You got to like walk the walk a little bit and make sure that you're looking after yourself. It's so weird that these Olympian coaches are like overweight. What the I never would have thought.
Yeah.
Never would have known.
I mean, I'm not going to name names because but yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, interesting. We just don't know, man. They just behind the scenes. Season A of IFBB Pro League Australia, the pro card winner was Morgan Eldred. What did you think of our pro card winner? Well, your pro card winner for the season A. Do you think I really like Marissa Perry as well, who was up there in that overalls? It was 4 girls. I don't know if you remember, but I've watched that fucking thing like 500 times. What did you think about Morgan? Like, she's got a different physique than what I've seen a lot on bodybuilding stages. What did you think about it? What are your thoughts?
I like her structure. I definitely think she had the right condition. She's got great structure, great front pose, the rear pose. The X-ring from the rear, she's got very good taper. I love how her upper back tapers into the waistline. For me personally, did I have her winning? No. I think it was very obvious that she was at best third in the rear pose based on her level of glute development. So her glute shape, size is very underwhelming from the rear, and that's what I see. So I had her at best third in the overall based on the level of glute development. She's the tallest out of the A, B, C, D class. and she was in the D class winner. She's the tallest of them all, so she's got a structure advantage. She's got a surface area advantage, you'd think, based on the size, right? But you have, Mel first. Mel was in the class A. Mel had bigger glutes as a shorter competitor than the tall competitor. There's a discrepancy of probably 20 centimeters in height. So major structure advantage, but didn't have the glute density. So did I have Morgan winning her high class? Yes. I think that her front pose and the way that she poses in general, her presentation, hair, bikini, makeup's on point, posing's on point. I'm a big fan of her posing. And yeah, like she always selects the right bikini. The tan's really good. Hair and makeup's on point. Yes, yes, yes. But just the glute density from the rear. And that's going to be exposed when she goes on a pro stage. Like she doesn't really make significant improvement there.
Yeah.
It's like, who do I think was better in that lineup? Definitely Cynthia. I think that she was a clear winner in that. It's like, it's mind blowing. And Nay was one that prepped Cynthia. And I do give shit to coaches who talk a lot of shit and who haven't got any pro cards. I'm like, if you haven't got a pro card and as a coach coaching bikini, then you're not a bikini coach. But I give her the exception to Nay because she would have won that, right? Nay's actually got very good bikini knowledge. But yeah, that was a horrible decision. It's like I think it was very clear that she was not winning the rear pose. Like, is it debatable if she could have won the front pose? Yeah, but she still wasn't winning the front pose either. Like Cynthia's waist is so small and is just as wide as Morgan with better glutes from the front. So if you've got better glutes from the front, the tape is similar and a smaller waist, you could maybe, if you're really biased, you could push and say Morgan's winning the front pose. Yeah. Like maybe. That's as generous as I can be. There's absolutely no debate that she's at best third in the rear shot, against those competitors. Yeah. So yeah, I think there was a wrong call, and I think there was some wrong calls in the height classes previous. I just think there were some girls that were completely overlooked that I believe could have been the overall and could have even won the pro card. So it's like, but yeah, Cynthia definitely won that. If the shorter class winner Mel won the pro card, either one of those two, I wouldn't have had a problem. But I definitely think Cynthia was probably the slight edge in that. But yeah, nothing against Morgan. And that's the thing. Like when I say this is bodybuilding. This is my perspective, and like I'm happy to debate anyone. Anyone's got an opinion. Go, oh Troy, you're biased. It's like, all right, I'm happy to debate it. Let's put the photos together and tell me that you disagree that she's third in the rear shot.
You're not wrong.
You're
not wrong.
I don't think that she agrees that she was best in the rear shot. Like I've never spoke to her. I don't know. But if you're critiquing your physique and you're true, like you may not like what I'm saying, but if you disagree with what I'm saying, you're not actually have a level of analysis or awareness. And if you don't agree, that's like, if your coach didn't tell you that, he's lying to you.
Yeah, 100%.
Because I'm critical. Like we spoke about Ali, why didn't she win? Like, and I think there was some New Zealand girls like, oh, she was in the best condition, she could have won. But the first thing I said was I accepted responsibility, and I said she didn't pose the best. Yeah. Right. So I think being honest and authentic is really important. Whether that was my decision that led to her not posing well or her effort or whatever it is, at the end of the day, it's a team effort. So I think people aren't honest, and they'll say whatever they want to say, and they're also scared of the IFBB in Australia. People are scared to voice their opinion and go, oh, I don't want the judges to not reward me. And I know that there's judges that don't like me. And that's the reality. But I'd rather be disliked and potentially be skewed a certain way than to be a person that doesn't have integrity, that doesn't speak their mind and just accepts bullshit decisions, whether my client's in it or not. Because then look what happens with the WBFF, right? People aren't accepting shit in the USA, and they're like, you know what? Fuck this. Boom. And then now what's happened? WBFF USA has decided to implement changes because people are pissed off. It's the same thing that can happen in the IFBB if more people are going to be honest. Because is it incompetent judging? Is it a lack of training in a judging panel? Or is it just, is it political? You don't know. But if there's more training, if there's more education, it's probably going to help. So the IFBB will take, they will take that feedback on, and they can have the ability to implement changes like the WBFF has. So I will say to, you know, IFBB Australia, which I have, I said, I didn't agree with that decision. I told Tony Doherty, and Tony Doherty is very good. He, you know, whether he agrees or disagrees with me, he will always give me the time of day. And that's something that I do like about Tony. He's always done that. And a lot of the time he disagrees with me, which is fine, but he's at least man enough to have a conversation. And he'll take the feedback on board, whether he agrees or not. Sometimes he agrees with me, sometimes he doesn't, but at least he's willing to accept that feedback. So I like Tony for that. And yeah, some judges, no, I definitely think that there needs to be some changes made, but no, like I said, no federation's perfect. WBFF, IFBB, I'm as a coach, I've still got room for improvement. I can still work on things. So feedback is important for everyone.
Definitely. And like I said, you're not wrong. If anyone wants to go and watch the live stream, it's still up on their YouTube channel. And I love Morgan. I followed Morgan for ages, big fan of her, but I do agree with you. I reckon that it was just a little bit different from the back pose, and a lot of people would see it if they saw the same thing that we saw, they'd agree. But fuck, who knows? What about this? I did ask you before, but I didn't let you answer, but season B, who do you reckon's got a pro card, or who do you think might be up there, just up there, like for an option, you know?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I don't know everyone that's competing.
Yeah.
I think it's coming from New South Wales or it's coming from Victoria, based on what I've seen. So Alan is definitely in the mix. So Alan's from New South Wales, and her posing, her condition, everything's going to be on point. She's got a level of charisma on stage, and she's got that top to bottom balance. She doesn't have a weak body part, hits a front pose, small waist, really good taper, good leg development, hits a rear shot, that glute density from the rear. Good luck beating that, you know, and the condition. So she's gonna be hard to beat in the short class. So depending on how many classes they do, she's gonna be one winner at nationals in her high class, no problem. So she'll be in the overall. That's, if someone beats her fair and square, they're gonna have to look amazing. I don't see that happening. And then Victoria, I would say Coco as well. She's an absolute freak. She's probably got the best genetics out of anyone I've ever seen, debatably, or top. And there's another one that comes to mind. So she's, let's say, top 2 genetics of anyone I've ever seen in bikini. Yeah, she brings in the condition, her structure, her proportions. It's very hard to beat. So she's in the mix as well. So those two, and they're in different height categories at nationals, which is perfect for me because I coach them both. I'm glad for that because that would be hard to see. So those two it's interesting because we've got some first timers that look really good, and I need to see them on stage to know with certainty. So I'm going to not include first timers. There's some first timers that I have on the team that look really good, but they might be listening to this, and I'm going to say to you girls, I've had private conversations with them, and I said, you're in the mix, but I need to see how they look on stage and how they perform, because your check-ins are different. Like, you've got potential. They could be in the mix for a pro card, but I have yet to see them on stage. So I need to see them on stage, and if they can perform when the lights are on, and then I will change my opinion and include them in the conversation, right? But I think, I reckon it's going to be Alan and Coco. And there's a few first timers that I think are really good that are on the team in the tall class. Nice. So, but I reckon I definitely think Alan or Coco for the pro card. Actually, the more I think about it.
Nice. Well, keep an eye out.
I'd lock that in. Actually, lock it in. Alan or Coco.
I love it. I love that you make predictions. Other people are too scared to do it, but fuck, why not? Put it out there. Yeah. What about New Zealand? Do you think Barbara's got it?
It's hard because I got a really good girl this weekend.
Oh, do you? Oh, one that I don't know about as well.
No, we see who we're talking about off there.
Sorry, yeah, of course.
So, yeah. So I need to see how she looks. I think it's going to be between the both of them. So probably just a level of density that they both have. They've both got really unique strengths, and it's a long time for nationals to make the adjustment. So I need to see how they both look. Rachel looks really good as well. I think she may not have the size though against these two girls. That's the only thing. So structurally, Rachel's super impressive, like super impressive. But the size, And I do notice that New Zealand does like density. So sometimes they'll reward ladies that are a little bit softer, that have the density or have fullness. And I've seen that before, like the Ali decision. They went for a softer look. And I don't think it was even slightly softer. It was a decent amount of body fat softer, just because the girl had more density. So I think based on how they judge and what I've seen, it's probably going to be between those two girls.
Yeah, nice. We'll see what happens. And Alfie is this weekend, so we'll see how she looks on the stage. They've all got different posing coaches as well, so it's always a little bit different to see their presentation, but it's going to be fun to watch them get up there. And I'll be up there with Rachel, so I'll put her to work. I'll fucking not, but I'll try. So interesting. All right, let's see what happens this year. We've only got a few weeks left until New Zealand pro cards will be out. So talking about you, I will wrap it up because I know you're a busy man. Do you have any spaces for coaching at the moment? How do people get in touch with you? Do you take just anyone, or does someone have to show you what they're going to do as part of Team Destroy? How does it work?
Yeah, I think it definitely coaching spots are open. So the best thing to do is send me a message. You can Instagram, DM me, or you can go on my website, send it through, contact us. Go in that section. But the main thing is that before you go through with coaching, all I ask is that you understand what your goal is. So come to me with the goal and know wholeheartedly that's what you want to do. Once you decide on that, if you're taking things seriously, I can help get you there. Because for me, I'm really more interested in what your goal is. And if we can come up with a timeline to achieve that, that's what I want. So like with Barbara, like she was awesome to work with because we had that long off season. It's a huge off season to have. It's pretty much 2 years since she's competed, essentially. And now she's in the mix. So it's a long time to invest. But if you're serious about your goals, like I love to work with ladies that are serious about, pushing themselves to the next level. Not everyone's perfect. Not everyone is going to be on point. That's fine. Like I said, the best thing you can do is be honest. So if you're honest with me and you go through your battle and you're struggling with things, I can help you. You don't have to be perfect to work with me, but I will push you to be your best. So if anyone's willing to be pushed to that next level, whatever their level's at, that's fine. As long as you're committed to the idea of being better, I can help you.
Nice. I love it. That's it, guys. And we, like I said, every time they say Troy Thornton on our stage, it's always awesome. So that's how you get to be on that team. What are your future plans for Team Destroy? Do you have because you've just grown so much over the years. Do you have any other plans of expansion, growth? Like, what are you doing at the moment, or is it just continue with what you're doing because it's awesome as it is?
Yeah, so I've got a really interesting concept with an app that I'm developing that I won't share exactly what it is at this point in time, but yeah, I've got a few different things that I'm working on, which is going to be interesting because I'm still always going to be focusing on competing because I enjoy it. To be honest, I enjoy working with amateurs more than anything. I really enjoy the whole circuit of competing, the idea of qualifying and then doing a national level contest. I think the hype around that, whether it's New Zealand or Australian nationals, is so much fun, right? When they turn pro, it's a little bit different. They lose that, I don't know, it's just that camaraderie, that level of competition. You know who's competing versus when you're competing against people you don't know that aren't in the same gym or aren't in the same state or country. It's kind of different. I don't know. I like working with that, but I'm always going to be, I'm going to be pushing WBFF a bit more in terms of, I would like to win a world title in bikini with that. I think it's very possible. And there's some other categories I'm going to explore with some ladies that are competing. So I really want to put a stamp on WBFF and set the standard there. And I'll continue to do that in the IFBB and to refine things. So the app's a completely different venture. That's going to be interesting. So I've had a few hiccups with that in terms of the development side of things, but we'll push past that and I'll get it done. But once it's ready, everyone will see what it's about. And I'll probably have a better discussion around that once it's ready to go.
Nice. Sounds good. It's just exciting to know what's happening, and you're always working, so there's always something in the works. And you'll be taking, I'm sure it's Tani, right? Tani will take the win for WBFF. We're all backing her. We love her over here. So we'll see her win it one day, man. Or maybe next year, but who knows? Who knows what will happen?
That's cool.
One more question before you go. Who's winning the Yo this year in bikini and wellness? Give us your prediction on that one.
Franciella locking that in for wellness.
Yes.
And bikini is so subjective. I'm going to say Laura Lee. I'm going to say I've always wanted Laura Lee to win.
Yeah.
But she seems to, I don't know if it's stress or whatever the issue is. It's hard for her to mentally prepare for the Olympia. But given how big she looks now, she looks super, super dense.
Oh,
she looks kind of, Yeah, she's very, very big. So she's going to probably come in very, very full.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's going to translate to a win, but if she can replicate somewhat of the Arnold package, maybe come in a little bit tighter, which I'm sure that's the strategy, a fuller look, it's going to be her or Maureen. I don't see how Jen's going to beat Maureen or Laura Lee if they're at their best.
Yeah.
If everyone's at their best, Laura Lee wins.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's debatable between Maureen and Laura Lee. I think we haven't seen the best of Maureen either. I think Maureen can be a little bit more conditioned and come in super full still. And same thing for Laura Lee. Whereas Jen, we've seen what her best looks like.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna take a punt and say Laura Lee, even though she hasn't placed well at Olympia. I'm gonna go all in on Laura Lee.
Yeah.
And we'll see if I'm right. I hope so.
She's hungry. Well, she's hungry for it for sure. And she, like you said, she's definitely bigger. Like, I feel like she's got almost too much body fat to lose before Olympia. I'm like, look at this chick, man. She's more like fluffy than I've ever seen her, but she's so dense. She's put on so much size. I follow her on Instagram and all that, so you see it all over there. But we'll see if you're right, Troy. I'll put your money where your mouth is, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm sure you'll be right up there. Every time I follow you and you give a prediction, you're fucking always right. And it's like, he's always right, man. And you can see it. Like, you're like, put them side by side. We put them side by side. Perfect. So it's really exciting. So thank you so much for talking to me today. I've honestly really appreciated it a lot. And I know that New Zealand will as well, because we always love hearing your thoughts and seeing your athletes, and we all look up to you and stuff like that. I have a lot of respect for you.
Thank you for your kind words and for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm happy to come on whenever you need me.
Oh, thanks, Troy. Maybe at the end of the season, who knows what we'll do, but we'll see how we go. But thanks again, and good luck with the rest of your season.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Troy. We'll talk to you soon.